Erling Haaland just scored twice on his first ever World Cup appearance. Norway are top of their group, and it might be the worst thing that could have happened to him, because this dream starts, it's a trap. And in just over a week, it could all come crashing down in the most brutal way this tournament has to offer. Stay with me, because once you see how this group works, you won't be able to unsee it, the dream. To understand why this is a trap, you have to understand what this moment actually means to Erling Haaland. He is, by almost any measure, the most lethal striker on the planet. He tore through Austria with Salzburg. He terrified Europe with Borussia Dortmund, and then he went to Manchester City and rewrote the record books, the fastest of 50 Premier League goals, the most in a single season, a scoring rate that simply shouldn't be possible. He has won league titles. He has won the Champions League. He has spent his entire career making world-class defenders look like amateurs, but there was always one gap, one glaring hole right in the middle of all that greatness. He had never played at a major international tournament, not one, no World Cup, no Euros, nothing, and it wasn't his fault. Norway simply didn't qualify. They missed the 2018 World Cup. They missed the 2022 World Cup. They missed the Euros twice. So while Messi lifted the trophy, while Mbappé became a global icon on this stage, while every other superstar of his generation had their World Cup moment, the best number 9 on earth sat at home and watched, just like the rest of us. Think about how strange that is. One of the greatest goal scorers the sport has ever produced, in the prime of his career, and the biggest stage in football had never once seen him play. Norway hadn't reached a World Cup in 28 years. Haaland wasn't even born the last time they did. So when Norway finally broke the curse and qualified for 2026, this wasn't just another tournament for him. This was the missing piece. The one stage that had always, somehow, said no. And he answered it in the most Haaland way imaginable. Norway 4, Iraq 1. 2 goals from the big man on his debut. A statement, top of the group on goal difference. The fairy tale writing itself in real time. The whole world watched and thought the exact same word, finally. And that precise moment of celebration is when the trap snaps shut. Because of where Norway have to go next, the turn. Here's the part nobody posting that 4-1 highlight wants to mention. Norway weren't drawn into just any group, they were drawn into the group 1. The one every single analyst circled before a ball was kicked and labeled the group of death. France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. On paper, the toughest collection of teams in the entire tournament, the highest average ranking of any group at this World Cup. There was no easy draw to be had in here, just survival. And while Haaland was burying his brace, the other monster in this group was making a statement of its own. France beat Senegal, one of the best teams in Africa, by 3-1. Kylian Mbappé scored twice. And with those 2 goals, he became France's all-time leading goal scorer and moved within touching distance of the all-time World Cup scoring record itself. So let's be precise about where this actually stands. Norway and France are both sitting on 3 points. Norway are top, but only on goal difference. The thinnest, most fragile lead in football, which means Haaland's dream start counts for almost nothing the moment it matters. Because Norway still have to play France. And that one game can erase the entire fairy tale in 90 minutes. That match is coming fast. And it is the hinge that Norway's whole World Cup swings on, cracks. So let's be honest about what Norway are walking into. Because this isn't one problem, it's 3. And stacked together, they form a trap with no easy way out. Crack number 1. France are not a team you outmuscle. This is the most expensive, most talented squad in the entire competition. A defense built around genuine world-class talent. A midfield with more depth than most nations have players. And an attack led by a man chasing history, supported by names that would walk into almost any other team on earth. They just dismantled one of Africa's best sides and barely got out of second gear. Norway are good. Norway are dangerous. But France are a machine and Norway have to find a way through them, or pray the math saves them. Crack number 2. Top of the group is an illusion. Right now the table looks beautiful for Norway, but it's propped up entirely by goal difference. And goal difference is the most brittle thing in this sport. One heavy night against France and Norway don't just slip to second. Depending on how the Senegal and Iraq results fall around them, they could tumble all the way to 3rd, and suddenly their entire World Cup is hanging on results in other groups, in other cities, that they have absolutely no control over. Crack number 3, and this is the one that should genuinely worry every Norway fan. The new format might not save. You've heard it everywhere. This is the new 48-team World Cup. It's easier to get out of the group. Even third-place teams can advance. And that is true. The 8 best third-place teams go through to the round of 32. But here's what those reassuring highlight reels conveniently skip. The best 8, not all 12. And in the group of death, where every team is strong enough to take points off every other team, a third place finish can come attached to a goal difference so badly damaged that the math simply doesn't work in your favor. The simulations are brutal on this point. A team can scrape through from third with a goal difference deep in the negative, but it's a gamble, not a guarantee. Some teams qualify from third on a prayer. Others go home with points on the board and a story about what might have been. So follow the chain. Norway could top their group today, lose to France, drop to third, and still fly home. The safety net everyone keeps pointing to? In this specific group, it's full of holes. And then there's the final weight to drop on top of all of the one that makes this personal and the one that doesn't show up in any table pressure. Before that Iraq game, the expectation around Norway was a quiet, hopeful whisper. Now, Haaland has a brace, Norway are top of the group, and a nation that has waited 28 years to be here suddenly, dangerously believes. The bar didn't just rise, it launched into orbit. And there is no crueler setup in all of sport than an entire country letting itself dream right before the hardest examination of the entire group stage. Haaland built his legend in stadiums where he was always expected to win. He has never once carried the hope of a starving football nation on his back. On the single stage, he has never conquered. Over the next 10 days, we find out if those shoulders are big enough, the pattern. And if you still think a flying start protects you, the World Cup has a long, cold history that says the opposite. This tournament is a graveyard of teams that looked utterly unstoppable in week one and were gone before the business end ever arrived. It's full of generational talents who lit up the group stage, ran headfirst into one elite opponent, and went home with nothing but a highlight reel and a lifetime of regret. Being the best player on the pitch has never been enough, not here. The World Cup does not care how many goals you scored for your club last season. It doesn't care how good you looked against Iraq. It asks one question in one game against the best opposition on earth, and it is utterly merciless with the answer. Erling Haaland has spent his entire career being the exception to every rule written about strikers, but the group of death is exactly where exceptions come to die, how the heartbreak happens. So picture how this actually plays out. Not doom for the sake of doom, the most likely version of events, step by step. Norway walk into the France game carrying the belief of an entire nation on their backs. France, ruthless, deep, and chasing history, do exactly what France do. They find a way. A moment of individual brilliance, a set piece, one defensive lapse punished. Norway lose. And just like that, the beautiful goal difference that had them top of the group is gone. Now they're third. And now they're not in control of anything. They're refreshing scores from other groups, doing frantic arithmetic on other teams' results, praying their record is good enough to sneak into that magic top 8. And in the toughest group in the entire tournament, with the points spread thin across 4 strong sides, it might not be. And then it's over. 28 years of waiting. The best striker on the planet finally on the stage that always denied him. 2 goals on his debut. Top of the group, however briefly, out in the group stage anyway. His first World Cup, and at his age, quite possibly his single best chance ever gone before the knockout rounds even begin. That is the trap. And the dream start is the thing that walked him straight into it, the verdict. Now could it all go the other way? Absolutely. Haaland could bully that French defense the way he's bullied everyone else his whole career. Norway could hold firm, grab the result they need, finish second, and march into the knockouts with their talisman roaring. And this entire video becomes the clip his fans quote back at me for years. Honestly, I would love to watch that happen, but that is exactly the point. The line between fairy tale and total disaster for this Norway team is razor thin, and it runs directly through the single hardest fixture of the group stage. A brace against Iraq does not change that reality. If anything, all it did was raise the height of the potential fall. For Erling Haaland, 2026 was supposed to be the moment the one missing piece of an extraordinary career finally clicked into place. The moment the World Cup stopped saying no. Instead, the draw handed him the cruelest setup it possibly could. A dream start inside a group of death, with the nation's 28-year hope sitting on his shoulders and France standing squarely in the doorway, blocking the only clear way out. The greatest striker of his generation has finally arrived at a World Cup, and it could be over before it ever truly began. So I want to hear from you. Does Haaland drag Norway through the group of death and prove every doubter wrong? Or does his first World Cup end exactly the way this group is built to end them? Heartbreak? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you want this same breakdown for every contender still left standing in this tournament, you already know what to do.